What is going on, my friends? Matitude22 back at you guys with another video today. This is going to be fun, guys. We are going to start a 10-part series. This is going to be the top 100 action figures in my collection. This is going to be my top 100 favorite figures. This could be from any line, any time frame, old, new, doesn't matter. This is just right now my top 100 figures. It could be based off sentimental value. It could be off nostalgia, based off quality. There's no criteria. This is just when I go and in my toy room and I'm looking at my shelves and I'm looking at my figures. These are just the top figures that jump out to me and that give me the most joy. So I'm gonna do this in 10 parts. I'm gonna do 100 to 90. No particular order. This is not a countdown. This is just kind of like an examination, if that makes sense. This is not a countdown. There's no ranking here. Like I said, I went into my toy room and I looked. I spent a few minutes looking, and there was some that I already knew that already jumped out to me. But that's kind of how I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to not plan this too much in advance because I don't want to plan too much and think like, well, what about this guy? What about this guy? It's going to be kind of like on the spot, like when I go down, like, oh yeah, definitely this guy, oh yeah, this guy, oh wow, this guy's really good. And that's kind of the way I want to do this. This could potentially change. If I do this video next year or in a couple months, it could be completely different. So that's going to be it. So we're going to do 100 to, I guess, 90 today. And then, I'm going to try to break it down because I don't want it to be like an hour and a half long video. So I'm going to break it down in several parts. Of course, if you like this and you want to see more, please make sure you like the video. If you're not already, do consider subscribing. I would so much appreciate that. And of course, let me know in the comments your favorite figures. And yeah, we're going to do this. Oh, one more thing. I kind of went back and forth on this idea. And I've decided that things that go together, I'm going to count as one. That's kind of how I do my top 10 or my top 20 of the year, which will still come. This is not that. We're still going to get a top 20 of 2022. It's just that, yeah, things, because there's certain things, and it'll be a case-by-case basis, and we'll get to it as we go into it. But there's certain things, guys, there's certain things that just go together. And all right, like for example, for me, it's like, well, I don't want to give any spoilers. We'll get to it as a case-by-case basis, like I said, but you'll see what I'm saying and I'll explain it as we get there. So let's do it, guys. I hope you do so much like this video. I think this is going to be really fun. This is something I wanted to do for a while. So let's just get into it. Here is the top 100 figures in my collection. All right, so starting it off, number 100, I guess you could say, we have the Power of the Primes, Optimus Prime. Now, is there better Optimus figures on the market? Yes, like if you get a third party or a masterpiece, but Transformers is just a little part of what I collect. So I try to only do the third party and the masterpiece if it's a character that's necessary. So when I saw this Prime, we were getting a new Prime, and I saw it online, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get this Prime. And man, I think this is the best, arguably the best Prime that Hasbro has put out now. Some people might disagree, and some people might say, oh, well, this one. But for me, for Primes that I've owned, this is the best one. I love just how accurate, how G1 accurate the face is. I love the stature. It's a leader class Prime. His legs are being a little bit difficult. His legs are a little bit difficult sometimes, but like I wish he stood kind of flatter. Like you can see he's kind of wobbly, but I don't care. I still love him. Yes, I know he has the backpack it is what it is. It's not great to look at, but if you just look at this guy from the front and you don't worry about the backpack, I just love how he looks. I just love the G1 feel. I love the size, and this is just an Optimus Prime that has shelf presence. And when I come down and look at my Transformers, Optimus Prime is always the center point of the Transformers shelf, and I just think he looks good. And I love the gun that he comes with, ripped right out of the cartoon. Yeah, this is just really it for me for Optimus Prime. I think it would be I think I would be very hard pressed to trade this Prime up. Uh, Again, not counting third party or masterpiece stuff, I think this is the best Optimus Prime Hasbro has done. I I don't know how they could top it. So yeah, you definitely had to have Prime on here, leader of the Autobots, and this is just such a beautiful figure. I love this Prime so much. That's why we kind of had to have him on here. All right, number 99. A decisive pick to say the least, because there's a lot of stuff that is wrong with the Star Wars Black Series General Grievous. There's a lot of stuff wrong with this figure. I think he's too gangly. I think he's too fragile. I wish he was a little bit I wish the arms were a little bit thicker. Uh, Articulation could be a little bit easier to manage, and he does tend to fall a lot. But Black Series has a tendency to make and not make certain characters. When this line started, this was one of the figures that right off the top of my head, I was like, man, I hope we get a General Grievous someday. And I think if we're talking shelf presence, if we're talking sculpt, this figure is really nice. And I think a lot of people give this figure some unnecessary hate. I get it, he doesn't stand, but if you overlook that fact, soft goods cape, the sculpt is nice, the face sculpt is good. He comes with 4 different lightsabers, so you could have a lightsaber in all 4 arms. We got a new Grievous from the Clone Wars, and I think he only comes with 2 lightsabers and 2 that are just kind of hilted. This is just nice. The 2 blue, the 2 green. I get it. I get the criticisms that he doesn't stand, and I understand that. And even comes with a pocket if you want to kind of have the lightsabers just kind of closed off. Like I said, you could see like his joints, the joints in the foot don't really support him. I get it. Like I said, I'm not going to overlook anyone's criticism of this figure. And if you kind of don't like this figure, I certainly understand. But I think he just looks so good. And like I said, when we talk about shelf presence, I always kind of think about if people come over and look. And my sister is a huge Star Wars fan, but she's not an action figure fan. But if she was to come over and look at my figures and look at my Star Wars shelf, this is something that I think would catch her eye. So that's what tells me, like, yeah, there's some real shelf presence here. Is there issues with this figure? Absolutely. Like I said, I won't argue if you tell me, yeah, this figure has a lot of flaws. It sure does. But for me, Black Series Grievous, could they make some improvements? Yes, but I think this figure is absolutely nice. I think he looks great, and I'm really, really happy we got this. So again, just like Prime, I had to have him on here just based off how much I love this figure. And when I go down and I look at my Star Wars shelf, I always smile when I look at Grievous, and had to be on the list. All right, next up, we're venturing to NECA. I think this is going to be a pretty NECA heavy part, but we have the Ultimate Goliath. If you watch my top 20 of 2021, you know this was my favorite figure. This was a dream figure for me. And cool, I love that we're getting so many gargoyles. It's so cool to me because these are figures that I had when I was a kid, and I could have only dreamed of having them as an adult. I didn't think it would ever happen, but I'm sure glad that it did. And yeah, Goliath, I think he looks great. The closed up wings, the cloaked wings really take him over the top. Even though this is a new figure, I'm trying to not have all new figures, but I had to have him on here just because of how much joy this figure brings me and how major of a how big Gargoyles was as a part of my childhood. You know, Goliath, excellent. NECA knocked it out of the park with the sculpt. Again, I won't spend too much time on him because I did cover him pretty recently on my top 20 of 2021. But, for how much joy and for how great it is to be getting this Dreamline, Goliath 98 definitely had to have a spot on the top 100. All right, as we go into number 97, we have the Marvel Legends War Machine, Deluxe War Machine. This is a case of example of when the Marvel Legends team wants to over deliver and they want to knock something out of the park. They have potential. There was no laziness here. They didn't cut any corners. Wept the guns, articulated the cannon, the minigun, articulated. Sculpt is nice, articulation nice, tons of blast effects. This is where it was a deluxe figure, and you really, really felt like you were getting your money's worth. I think this, in terms of a War Machine, just like I said about the Prime, I don't see how they could ever make a better War Machine. I don't imagine a scenario in which I ever upgrade this figure. I think he just looks so good. The gunmetal gray parts and the shiny silver, they contrast so well. And I'm a classic guy. I'm a classic snob. I'm more into the classic than I am the modern stuff. And this War Machine, I think, is as classic as you get. Maybe not as classic as you get. You could do like a Silver Age, but yeah. And of course, it has some nostalgia because he looks ripped. Like he looks like he was ripped right out of the cartoon. But yeah, for me, this War Machine, this is a prize Marvel Legend figure for me. This is one that, if I had to do, I could almost do like top 100 Marvel Legends. He would surely be near the top. But yeah, again, like I said, no particular order. This, I think, is one of the best Marvel Legends figures we got. I know we have, and we have a lot of Iron Men that are really, really nice. That's why War Machine kind of sticks out to me so much because yeah, we have tons of Iron Men, but we don't have a lot of War Machines. And some of the MCU War Machines have been really, really nice. But that's MCU. If you're talking comic War Machine, if you're talking Marvel Legends comic book War Machine, you don't have a lot of options. And I think they could have just given us a halfway decent War Machine, and I think people would have been excited about it because hey, we haven't had a comic War Machine in a long time. They could have, but they didn't cheap out. They put a lot of love into this figure, and it shows. And he is 97 in the top 100 favorite figures in my collection. All right, 96. So this is the first example of two figures that share a spot. These guys are tied for 96, and because here's the thing, if you just have one, you're not going to enjoy it as much. Maybe you don't care about Hawk and you just like Animal, and that's totally fine. And for you, that might be like, okay, well, this is the best Animal figure, and I agree. But these two together, I'm just noticing one of Hawk's armbands is kind of falling off. I have it here, but yeah, for me, like it's really, really having these two together. If you just kind of have one, it's not going to be as nice. But yeah, LOD Elite. These are older Mattel Elites, but yeah, like look at the face sculpt, the paint apps, the shoulder pads, the deco on the gear looks great. Again, these is just a case of I don't. We've had LOD since then, but I don't think we're ever gonna get better than this. Just the face sculpts, the paint apps. I think these two look great together. This is a perfect example of where Mattel really changed the WWE line, whereas Jakks, everybody would be the same size and everyone was the same height. But Mattel really put that scale to the test when Mattel kind of came in and said, no, this is all going to be like real scale. Guys that are smaller are going to be smaller. guys that are bigger are going to be bigger, and you really get that on full display here, where Hawk is a bit leaner and a bit taller, and Animal tiny bit shorter but a little bit thicker. We have that on full display. Yeah, these are true must-haves if you're like a 80s wrestling fan, or if you're like a Legends fan, or if you just collect Legends. These are an absolute must-have. I think these are the versions you need. These are the WWF versions where, they were kind of prominent for me. This is where I'm more familiar with them. Some people might say like AWA or WCW. No, these are the versions of LOD that I am the most familiar with. I think this is the best version, and I think these figures are absolutely nice. And I think if you have one, you're really, really doing yourself a disservice. You gotta have them both. 96 from Mattel, Elite Legion of Doom. All right, number 5, we jump back to NECA, but a very different figure. We have the Ultimate T800. Now, again, shelf presence makes a big deal. Terminator 2 is a movie that my dad and my brother and we all loved as when we were younger. And again, when I say shelf presence, if my dad is coming over and he's checking out the figures, this is the first place he's going. I think he just looks so good. I think NECA did such a good job with this Ultimate T800. Comes with a bunch of accessories. You could get him any kind of scene you want from that movie. Face sculpt good. Articulation is decent, maybe a little outdated. This is an older NECA figure. Like, this is when they first started doing the Terminator figures. But you know what? For how good he is, and for how much stuff he comes with, and how many different display options, you really can't go wrong with this figure. And I think this really was the first. I think this was really one of the first figures to come out in the Terminator line, where I don't think it was called the Ultimate. Maybe it was. Again, I got this guy a long time ago, but this was the first figure where, for me, when I started collecting, because I did get him pretty early on, this was one of the first figures that was really like, damn, this is really what NECA could do. Before that, I always kind of perceived NECA as, not super posable. But yeah, like, this has really set the tone for what Ultimates could be, in my opinion. And this, again, is a figure that I really, really love. This really was one of the figures that really sold me on NECA and really made me be like, okay, this is a company that I really want to get more of, and I really want to see more of. I think he looks great. Sculpt is great. Paint app's great. Face sculpt great. Like I said, tons of accessories. Articulation could be a little better. Like I said, it's not, NECA has since come a long way to, for now. Now we get super highly articulated figures from them. This one, like I said, the articulation does feel a little bit outdated, but not to where it's unposable. Like, you could get him any kind of poses you need. Like I said, he has cut joints. He has a cut joint there. Doesn't have one here, but yeah. Ultimate T800. I love this figure so much. And Terminator 2, one of my top 5 favorite movies. So, we had to have T800 on this list. Yeah, but let's keep rolling. All right, 94. We have the first import figure on this list. From Figma Overwatch, we have McCree. I do so much love this figure. Not only because McCree is one of my go-to characters in Overwatch, but because I love spaghetti westerns and Man with No Name, Fistful of Dollars. I love all that stuff. And this is just reminiscent of those kind of spaghetti westerns. He comes with the huge ass revolver, which looks nice. Import quality, so again, he's super posable. I really, really like this figure. This is one that I always kind of tend to go around and kind of mess with a little bit. I will say, to be fair, this this is one where maybe if I did this, maybe if I did this video in a couple months, maybe he would kind of not make the cut. He maybe would get left off. But for what it is, I like this figure. And as a Western fan, and Gunslingers is not, Westerns is not well represented in figure form. Like, we don't have any like Red Dead Redemption figures. We don't have any like Man with No Name figures. I think there's like one third party one that's quarter scale, but for a 5-inch scale, if you're just a fan of like westerns and spaghetti westerns, and yeah, this is a must have figure. If you could get over the price, because again, it is an import, so it is pretty pricey. But Overwatch McCree from Figma definitely well represents the westerns in my collection. All right, 93. I don't think it should come as any surprise to anyone. We're going to have some horror figures on here. Again, going back to NECA, Ultimate Leatherface. Whew. This is a beautiful figure. First of all, face sculpt. Oops. It's so good. My tripod couldn't handle how good it was. First things first, face sculpt, 10 out of 10. Easy. Nailed it. Nailed the face sculpt. Soft goods apron. Chainsaw looks great. Bloody chainsaw. And he comes with all kinds of other fun weapons that I just kind of tucked in behind his apron. Yeah, this is another one that I got early on. I think he's been reissued a few times. I think maybe not a few times, maybe once, maybe once or twice. But I got him when he first came out. And this was one of the figures that, again, really kind of started my horror collection. There's another one that we'll talk about later. But yeah, Leatherface, absolutely great. I love the bloody apron. Had to have him on here. The chain, just how good he looks, and shelf presence, man. Shelf presence matters. Love the chainsaw. Could he have been better? Maybe a little bit. I wish the chainsaw kind of could move. That would be cool. But yeah, I love this figure so much, and it doesn't hurt. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, again, like I said about the T800, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of my favorite horror franchises. So I had to have motherfucking Leatherface on on this list. All right, second last, but not least. But actually, that doesn't apply because there's no numerical value. Whatever, doesn't matter. DC Icons Darkseid. Wow, when this figure was announced, I did not expect this. This figure is just massive. The sculpt on him is incredible, articulated, everything you could possibly want in a Darkseid. This is actually even one of the rare cases where usually when it comes to DC figures, I go Mattel, build a figure. This is one of the rare cases where I have the Darkseid build a figure, but this is the Darkseid I have on my DC shelf, because this figure is just so huge and impressive that how could you not? Like I said, shelf presence, sculpting on point, articulated better, maybe better than he should be. And just, yeah, that face sculpt. I think this is I think out of every Icons figure, which was a really good line, I really enjoyed that line. I wish it would have went further. I think Darkseid is the best. Maybe he's tied with somebody else. Stay tuned, but I really enjoy this Darkseid. If I had one complaint, maybe a little too big. I wish he was maybe a tiny bit smaller. But you know what? This version of Darkseid was meant to be quite larger, so I can't hold it against him. I think he's big, he's bulky, he's sculpted well, he's articulated. How could you go wrong with this figure? The DC Icons Darkseid, bar none, one of the best we got out of the Icons line. And rounding out this first part, 91, Storm Collectibles Goro. There's almost not enough good things I could say about this figure. 4 articulated arms. Sculpt, yes. Size, yes. Shelf presence, yes. This is like I said about the Grievous when Storm Collectibles started doing Mortal Kombat figures. This was one of those figures where I was like, oh man. If they ever make a Goro, that'll really take this line over the top. And they did. They did make a Goro, and he's so good. I love the paint apps. I think there's a bloody version which you could get, so that's nice to have as an option. But like, look at this. Sorry, John Morrison, but you can kind of get Goro. You could get him, like one of his classic moves in the game. You can get him holding somebody up, and like I said, sorry John Morrison, you got to be the catalyst for this, but his arms are solid enough that he could hold a whole nother figure. Okay, maybe not right now, but for the most part he can. But yeah, really nice figure. I love this a lot. I think Storm Collectibles really did a great job here. I remember not having Goro on one of my countdowns because I didn't have him in time to make the video, and it always kind of bothered me that I didn't get to talk to him in that manner. But I'm so happy to have him now. I think this figure is over the top. Love it. This is one of the best, easily the best figures. If this video was ranked, Goro would definitely be in the top 10. Just masterpiece. If you don't have this figure and you like Mortal Kombat, go out and get him. I don't care. This is one I would say pay aftermarket price. It is worth it to have this guy in your collection, and he's just so much fun to play around with. And there you go, just to prove my point. You can, with a little finesse, you can absolutely have him holding someone and pounding on him. Like I said, that's a classic Goro move. But yeah, I just had to show that was possible with a little time and a little. And that is it, my friends. This is 100 to 91 of my top 100 figures. Again, no particular order here. This is just the first 10 that I picked. Some of these, are maybe could have been higher if I would have actually numerically ranked it, but I didn't do that because I figured that would be too complicated. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you come back for part 2. Let me know if there was anything on here that would be, any figures on here that would be part of your top 100. Of course, let me know, or let me know what your top figures are. So that is it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like, share, consider subscribing if you're not already. And my friends, I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next video. And bye.